Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to stick to Hong Kong and we're going to return to a brewery that's featured on the channel many times before. Now, I've had some really nice beers from these guys over the last couple of years, quite a few different styles, but if people were to ask me about this brewery, I would say that they're probably best known for their different types of wild ales, sour beers, whatever you want to call them, although that said, their regular beers are pretty damn solid in my experience too. Now, the beer that we're going to have a look at today was something of a special release for them. It's quite unusual in its style category, and I can't say that I've ever had a beer in this particular style category that has these particular twists and adjuncts and things to it. But yeah, I think this one should be really interesting. So needless to say, I'm very, very curious to see what this beer is going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer, hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we're going to head up to the new territories to a little place called Kwai, Chung. And that means that we're going to have a look at another beer from the wonderful Yardley Brothers Brewery. So this particular beer is called Yardley's 62 Peel Street. It comes in at 7% ABV. This one is a sour beer, wild ale, whatever you want to call it. But to be specific, they're calling this one a Kwai mixed fermentation barrel-aged Feijoa sour, and it's one of 800 bottles. So yeah, this was released in 2021 to celebrate the opening of the Yardley's bar on Peel Street in Central, and I honestly can't remember where I got a hold of this bottle. It might have been at one of the wine rack shops actually. So yeah, I picked this one up because I noticed it was a little bit older, and of course Yardley's do some pretty damn good sour beers. So not too many bottles of this one left around actually, so definitely cool to be able to do a review of this one for you. But yeah, Feijoa is a fruit I hadn't heard of before having a look at this beer, so we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the video. But always cool to return to Yardley Brothers for something a bit different, so let's crack on with this one then and see what we have. So as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Yardley Brothers Brewery before, and we will no doubt add more to that list at some point in the near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Hong Kong playlist along with a number of other things. That's being added very regularly, of course, since I am now based out here, but do make sure you check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well, because there are some very interesting things on the channel these days. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about Yardley Brothers Brewery once again then. So, Yardley Brothers Brewery, as I've told you before, was founded by the brothers Luke and Duncan Yardley. So the brothers are half Scottish and half English. Their dad is the Scottish one and comes from very close to me. But Luke had previously worked as a parts wholesaler, and he ended up moving to Hong Kong and then staying there after he met a girl, but that relationship didn't work out, so he met another one and married her a little bit later on, and she of course is Ting Ting, who's quite involved in the company as well. But he and Duncan had homebrewed at home in the UK, and then they took it up again when Duncan joined Luke in Hong Kong in about 2014, mainly because they couldn't get the beer that they wanted to drink themselves. So their first brewery was in a very small shack on Lama Island, but then in December of 2016 they opened a production brewery on the 5th floor of an industrial building because the rent was massively cheaper. And if you know anything about Hong Kong, you will know that commercial rents and even residential rents are just absolutely horrendous. But apparently when they moved in, the tanks wouldn't fit in the elevator, so 8 people had to push the tanks up the stairs just to get them into this brewery. But they stayed there for a number of years, and this place was in the Kwai Chung area at the Wat Industrial Centre. centre, and that of course is in the New Territories, a bit to the kind of northwestish of Kowloon. But they also have the Beer Shack out on Lamma Island, which was their first bar, and I do recommend that you go and check that out. Of course, the Beer Shack has moved premises from its original place, and now they've got the tap room in Central as well, which opened in 2021. But over the last few years, they spent a lot of time developing their barrel programme, which they started back in 2018, and they moved into a new and larger brewery still in the Kwai Chung area to the northwest of Kowloon during 2023. But as of September 2024, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 150 different types of beer of all different styles, and yeah, they've done a whole host of different things. Like I say, they're probably best known for their kind of sour beers and wild ales and things like that in recent times. But yeah, one of the beers I really want to try from these guys was the freeze distilled IPA called the Beast. Apparently they drank that all at a festival instead of actually bottling or canning any of it, which is a shame because I would have loved to have tried that. But yeah, they've done a whole range of different things over the years. My kind of regular go-to with these guys is the Hong Kong Bastard. I really like that one. But yeah, I always enjoy trying the new kind of sour beers that they release. So yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Yardley Brothers Brewery for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a wee bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on then and have a little look at the beer itself. So I'll let you have a wee look at the artwork on this one, but you're not really going to need that much time to look at it, of course. But there you can see Yardley's 62 Peel Street, which is of course the address of the bar there. But then you can see 2021 limited edition Yardley Brothers handcrafted barrel aged series, and it tells you on the back here, this is a barrel aged series, Kwai mixed fermentation barrel aged Feijoa sour, one of 800 bottles, 2021 vintage. This one is bottle number 787. This 12-month barrel aged Kwai mixed fermentation Feijoa sour celebrates the opening of our first cafe bistro bar in Hong Kong, Yardley's. Yeah, it looks pretty nice, this one, really nicely presented. Plain black top on the bottle, incidentally. This one is 375 millilitres. No idea what I paid for this one, in all honesty. Like I say, I'm pretty sure I got it at one of the wine rack stores, maybe TST, but I'm not sure about that. They've also got Sai Ying Pun and Sai Kung and Wan Chai and stuff like this. But yeah, 7% wild ale, this one. Mixed Kwai yeast in there. For those of you who don't know, Kwai yeast is basically Norwegian farmhouse ale yeast. Gives you some really interesting big bready and fruity characters. And then the Feijoa, I had to look this up because I wasn't sure. It looks a little bit like a lime almost, but it's got a kind of different inside to it. But it's a fruit native to southern Brazil, Uruguay, Paraguay and northern Argentina, and it can also be found in New Zealand as well. But it's supposed to give you a kind of like strawberry and pineapple-like flavour from what I remember reading about it. So yeah, we'll just need to see. But this one also has lactobacillus and Brettanomyces in it, in addition to the Kwai yeast. But this should be really interesting. Let's get it out into the glass and see what it's all about. I'm really curious about this one. Nice little bit of smoke on the opening there. But let's do this and see. This should be very, very nice. We'll just be careful with it though, because it looks as if the head might be a little bit excitable. So there we go. We can maybe just let that settle for a wee bit and I'll put the rest of it in later on. But yeah, anyway, that beer looks really nice. So before the head disappears, we've got maybe about 80% of it out and into the glass, but you can see there's a nice finger of a frothy, I would say kind of cream coloured head on this one. Bigger bubbles sitting on the surface of the liquid there, and it gets foamier the further up that you go. But yeah, you can see this beer's poured a lovely kind of light amber colour in there. So one or two big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass, a few little ones going up toward the bottom of the head there. But overall, it looks pretty nice. You can see little bits of particulate matter floating around in this one, which is quite nice as well. But yeah, it's kind of got a good degree of clarity to it, a little bit of natural haze. But yeah, it looks very, very nice. So yeah, That's pretty good, this one. Looks nice. So remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugar is caramelised, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect its colour as well. And of course, that can vary from brewery to brewery, beer to beer, whatever. But when it comes to these kind of modern sour beers, if you like, where they're adding fruits and stuff as adjuncts, that is going to be the main factor in determining your colour. So the Feijoa obviously doesn't affect the colour that much. It's a little bright green thing from what I saw. But yeah, all in all, appearance of this one looks pretty good, kind of what you would expect from the wild ale category. So yeah, there we go. Right, so let's have a wee look at the nose on this one then, and just see how we go. I'm very curious about this, actually. Okay. Not, you see, there's nothing really madly kind of unusual about this one. As I say, I'm not familiar with the Feijoa fruit, but I don't find anything particularly unusual about this beer, considering that it's like a wild ale, sour beer wild ale. It has got a little bit of a kind of citrusy sharpness on the big when you first take the nose in, but that's kind of to be expected when you've got lactobacillus and Brettanomyces involved, so that's not overly surprising in all honesty. Yeah, so yeah, it's got everything you'd kind of expect. There's a lovely little bit of like woodiness and stuff underneath. You've got that little bit of kind of citrusy character. You've got the kind of the bready notes, the kind of little bit of brown sugar. You've got all of these kind of things that you would expect from a kind of sour beer wild ale type thing. So yeah, there's nothing really unusual about this this beer, in all honesty. So yeah, let's just try and break it down then and see what it's all about. So yeah, the backbone of the beer for me, you can smell the barrel in there. It smells like it's a white wine barrel. It doesn't actually say what barrel they've used for this one, but my guess would be some sort of white wine, because it's got this really sharp kind of vinous character within the wood. But yeah, you can smell that lovely kind of, I suspect, European oak in this one. But yeah, lovely kind of smooth European oak in there, because it's got a wee bit of dryness to it as well, and that's why I say European oak. American oak is, of course, or North American oak, I think we have to say, is a different species of tree, and I always find it's just that little bit smoother. But yeah, you get that little bit of dryness out of the woody character in this particular beer, and there's that wee bit of vanilla to it as well. But yeah, on top of that, you get this really quite sharp or pungent, however you want to say it. You do get this good little bit of vinous quality coming out of this one, which is quite interesting. So yeah, the way that goes together in this beer, I think, is really nice. Yeah, for me, yeah, so you've got this lovely woody character in there. So the woodiness is there, the little bit of vanilla, the vinous character. Then above that, you start to get the actual notes of the malty side of the beer. So for me, the malty side of this beer, you get a little bit of like a kind of brown bready bread crust in there for sure. There's little bits of cracker, of course, as well. But then there's this quite dry white bready note to it. And I think that's the Kwai yeast that's going to give you the cracker and the white bread, in honesty. So yeah, you've got that, and the malt's going to do it as well. But yeah, a little bit of like fresh brown bready bread crust, definitely a little bit of cracker, some nice white bready notes out of this one. But yeah, there's some really nice kind of white bready characters coming out of this one too. But then you've also got on top of that, there's definitely a wee touch of like brown sugar to this one. I mean, there's wee bits of like Werther's Original, butter candy, butterscotch, and yeah, a little bit of butter candy, butterscotch, and also the kind of like a little bit of a kind of almost McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing, but it's not quite as bright as that, I would say. So yeah, there's a wee bit of biscuit, there's a wee bit of Werther's Original Buttercandy Butterscotch, and maybe just a teeny little hint of like of caramel or something like that coming out of this one. But yeah, the way that all of that goes together, I think, is really nice. So the malty side of this one, it's not overly surprising from what I've had from Yardley's before. But yeah, it is certainly quite nice. At the back of the nose, you start to get the kind of yeasty, yeah, you start to get the yeasty side of the beer coming out of this one. So yeah, lovely kind of yeasty character to it. The yeasty side of things for me is quite like, it's like a kind of rusticy, farmhousey type bread. Again, that's one of the characteristics of the Kwai yeast. So you've got that woody, kind of crackery sort of thing going on in this one, which I think is really nice. So yeah, lovely kind of woody, crackery sort of characters in here. Yeah, woody, crackery sort of notes. Lovely kind of, yeah, quite a bit of brown bread to that yeasty side of things too. But other than that, I think we've covered what we need to say about the malty and yeasty side of the beer. For me, it's really quite nice actually, and it seems a bit more old school, Yardley's if we can call it that, because these guys have been about 10, have been around about 10 years now, which is kind of crazy to think. But yeah, anyway, in terms of the hoppy side of the beer then, so this is always an interesting thing to talk about when it comes to sour beers and wild ales. It's always interesting to ask the brewer what their hopping mentality is when it comes to these beers, because what they used to do with the old school Belgian sours back in the day was they would add older hops that had lost a little bit of their alpha acid potency, and the reason for that was of course to make sure that the bitterness of the beer from the hops did not detract from the sourness. So there you go, because it's your alpha acids that kind of determine how bitter the beer is going to be. The beta acids give you the sort of flavour side of things and the kind of fruity notes, if you like, and also determine how long the bitterness is going to last within the hop. But yeah, with the Yardley's ones, I think he likes to use a little bit of hops. Luke likes to use a bit of hops in these beers to give you that bit more of a kind of flavour complexity. But a lot of modern brewers will say, oh yeah, if you're adding fruit into the beer as adjuncts, it's going to suppress the green component anyway, so why bother? But with the kind of more woody sour beers, as I call them, like this, having a little bit of hop in there is always quite interesting. So I think there are some hops in this beers, but obviously with this one being like 3 years old at the time of filming, quite a little bit of that will have dropped out, of course. But yeah, you do still get a little bit of a hoppy remnant in here. There's a wee bit of kind of earthiness, there's a little touch of woodiness in there, a little bit of floral aromaticity, and a wee touch of grassiness, of course, as well. So yeah, the way that goes together in this one, I think, is really nice. Yeah, so yeah, a little bit of floral character in there, a wee bit of grassiness, a little bit of kind of woody, earthy sort of thing too. So yeah, yeah, kind of everything you'd expect from the green component of the beer anyway. But on the fruity and sour side of things, I guess we have to say with this kind of beer, you do get that big sharp citricy note when you take this one in. So I think the lactobacillus is the thing that's going to be most responsible for that. But yeah, once you kind of get past that, because it saturates your nose a little bit, that particular side of this beer. Once you get past that, it kind of yeah, once you get past that, it sort of mellows out a wee bit, and you get aromas like oily pear. Yeah, I do get a little bit of the strawberry they're talking about from this feijoa fruit. Maybe even a little hint of like apricot and pineapple and stuff like that. But yeah, oily pear. You know, there's some kind of fresh green apple in there. Yeah. Yeah, fresh green apple, oily pear, apricot, definitely that bit of juicy strawberry they're talking about. You've got that sharper citricy note in the beginning, of course, too. Yeah, the aroma of this one, I think, is really interesting. Do I still have that tab open? I don't think I have that tab open. where I looked up the feijoa fruit. Let me just see. Did it disappear? I think it might have. Yeah, well, doesn't matter. Anyway, but yeah, I was curious just to see what flavours you were supposed to get out of this, but yeah, no, I think that's... Yeah, so I managed to find the tab there that I'd opened with the feijoa fruit. So yeah, it says like strawberry and pineapple, but obviously you got a bit of music in there as well. But yeah, I can see why it would say both of those elements just from the aroma there. But yeah, let's have a taste of this one then and see how we go. But as I always say, take a little bit of time to enjoy the aroma of your beer before you get stuck into it. But yeah, let's have a taste of this one then and see what it's all about. Sláinte, skål, and cheers. The 62 Yardley 62 Peel Street, 7% ABV. This should be really nice. Oh yeah, that's really, really nice. One thing I will say as well, when I just kind of moved the glass there to take it up to drink, I got, yeah, big whiff of juicy strawberry out of this one. So yeah, there's your feijoa thing there. And into the aftertaste as well, yeah. It's got that lovely kind of oily strawberry, pineapple-y note. For me, a good little bit of apricot as well, actually, which is interesting. But yeah, this is like, I think these Yardley beers, if you age them for maybe 2 or 3 years, they're quite, I would say, quite oily and quite smooth. Naturally, these ones, I think it must just be the aging, the aging process that they go through in this particular environment, if you like, here. But yeah, the Yardley sour beers always turn out like really smooth and really, yeah, they always turn out really nice and very, very smooth. And yeah, this one with the 3 years age on it is just really pretty damn spot on. So it gets a big, big thumbs up from me. But yeah, into the aftertaste, you do get that nice kind of strawberry note from the feijoa. You can also feel the influence of the Kwai and that lovely, smooth kind of bready character that it gives you. This is a beautiful, beautiful beer. I have to say that. I think this is really, really nicely done. So big thumbs up. This is maybe one of my favourite Yardley sours that I've had, actually, and that's it's not something to take lightly, in all honesty. Yeah. So, yeah, let's just break this beer down then and describe it for you a wee bit more in depth, as we always do. Right, so let's go to the middle third of the palate then. The backbone of the beer, you've got this lovely kind of smooth, woody backbone, as you would expect, that lovely oaky character in there. As you move further forward on that, you do get a little touch of a kind of vanilla type note out of this one. So yeah, there's a wee bit of that vanilla in there. Above the wood, of course, you start to get the, yeah, you definitely start to get that nice, yeah, you get a bit of the kind of vinous layer. So it's, I'm pretty sure it's a white wine barrel this thing's been in. So yeah, you've got the lovely smooth oak there. It gets a little bit of vanilla going further forward. Then you've got the, then yeah, you have the lovely kind of smooth. Then above that, yeah, above the vinous layer, the vinous layer has a wee bit of like that sharpness to it, which is interesting. But then yeah, you start to get the malty side of the beer, so it's got a little bit of that kind of brown bready bread crust in there, which is really, really nice. So yeah, brown bready bread crust. Then yeah, you've got a kind of fluffier layer of brown bread above that. Then you start to get like a smoother kind of white bready layer out of that one, and then you're getting the wee elements of brown sugar out of this. So yeah, you can feel above the white bread there's a little bit of like a toasty, biscuity kind of note with this one. So yeah, there's a little bit of that toasty kind of biscuity character above the white bread there. And then yeah, as you go to the middle of your palate, you can feel there's a kind of like oily, fudgy sort of circle thing. So you've got that oily, fudgy circle in there, which is like, you know, Werther's Original, butter candy, butterscotchy type notes. So yeah, a little bit of Werther's Original, butter candy, butterscotch. And then mixed on the edge of that, there's a wee bit of like biscuit, of course. So yeah, you've got that slightly toasty brown sugar underneath, the kind of biscuity character surrounding that Werther's Original, butter candy, butterscotch. Then yeah, in the dead centre of your palate, maybe, just maybe, there's a little bit of an almost like fudgy type quality to this one. And the brown sugar, of course, in this beer is going to be your alcohol, basically. So yeah, this is 7%, this one, so it's not going to blow the head off you in terms of the alcohol. But yeah, this one does go together really, really nicely, and you can feel the influence, the sort of crackery notes and the smoothness of the bread in this one. That's going to be your that's partly influenced by both your malt profile and by the fact that you've got the Kwai yeast in here. So yeah, good stuff. I have to say that about it. Really good stuff. So yeah, on top of the apart from that, I think we've covered the middle third of your palate then. So let's go to the back third of your palate. So the border region between middle and back third of your palate, you get that nice little bit of bready build up in there. So you've got the kind of brown bread in the base, the white bread on top, and then a wee bit of like a slightly kind of biscuity note there. But yeah, the base of that back third of your palate, you've got a lovely smooth, yeah, you have that lovely smooth kind of oaky, yeah, you've got that lovely smooth kind of oaky character coming out of it in the base, which is a little bit drier. Above that you get a little bit of the vinous character again. Then yeah, you've got the brown bready bread crust, which I would say is a little bit drier. Then you've got that kind of light, airy, nice kind of brown bready sort of character that sits above it. So yeah, for me, the kind of brown bready character is a little bit lighter, more airy and drier. Then above that, you've got the white bready layer, which is a little bit, again, it's a little bit more light, airy and dry, I would say. So yeah, again, that's your kind of Kwai notes. But then on top of the malty side of the back third of the palate, you can feel some of the toasty brown sugar and some of the drier, like almost slightly leathery type characters from that middle of your palate coming out there. I never used that descriptor earlier on in the video, but yeah, there is a slight leatheriness to this beer that comes out in the aftertaste. But above everything else, you do of course get that yeasty character coming out of it. So yeah, the yeasty side of the beer, for me, at its core, like, it's quite a sweet and dense brown bready sort of note that you get. Then round the edge, you get a little bit of a more kind of, yeah, around the edge you get a little bit more of a kind of grainy brown bread, and then there's a wee bit of a bread crusty sort of thing to it as well. So that's really interesting. But yeah, nice kind of brown bready character in the middle, more of a kind of grainy brown bread around the edge, then yeah, bread crusty around the very edge of that. So definitely, yeah, back third of your palate, you can feel the flavour is taller. Then as you move further forward into the middle third of your tongue, it just kind of condenses down and squashes together that little bit more. So yeah, the way that that goes together, I think, is really nice, and that gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, good stuff. I have to say, good stuff. So yeah, let's go on to the kind of hoppy side of things then. So as I said earlier, a lot of the hoppy character will have dropped out of this one because it's it's 3 years old basically. But yeah, for me, there is still a little bit of that there. In the back corners of the palate, you definitely get that wee bit of earthiness. As you move further forward, there's a wee tiny little hint of woodiness in there, but yeah, as you move further forward, some of the woodiness and stuff does linger there, of course, but you get a little bit of floral character as you reach the front corners of the palate. Then round the front curve of the tongue, the beer is that little bit lighter and more grassy, I would say, and there's a little touch of zestiness to it there. But yeah, the green component in this one is really nice and really sort of oily. So yeah, the way that that goes together, I think, is is really nice in this one. Yeah, I think we can go on to the front third of the palate then, and the fruity side of the beer. So yeah, border region between front third and middle third of your palate, you get that nice little bit of kind of bready build up in there, wee bit of brown bread in the base, the white bread on top, and then a wee bit of a more kind of bready character sitting above that. But yeah, the base of the front third of your palate, you've got the woody barrel, of course, then you've got that slight vinous layer, the brown bready bread crust, the brown bread, the white bread, and then yeah, you start above that, you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters come out of the beer, and then you get the Untappd flavour from the lactobacillus and the Brettanomyces as well. So yeah. So yeah, for me, the impact of this sour, it just comes in right behind the very kind of front tip of the tongue, and it just rolls out really, really nicely. So yeah, the way that sharpness comes in, I think is great. There's a wee bit of that in this one. Comes in with that little bit of sharpness, and it just mellows out really nicely. For me, a good sour beer is always one that comes in that little bit sharp and just mellows out, and this one really does that. So you get that real kind of sharp citricy sort of thing from the lactobacillus, I would say, coming in, and of course it just mellows out. But on top of that, the base of that kind of oily bubble, I would say, it's that sort of oily, peary type note. In the centre of that middle third of your palate, there's a wee bit of like a drier apricot-y type note, but into the aftertaste, you do start to get that slightly strawberry kind of flavour that you're supposed to get from Feijoa, and I can get what I would describe as a wee bit of like a pineapple as well. So yeah, I can agree with those kind of flavours that you're supposed to get from the Feijoa fruit. Like I say, I've never encountered this before. There's probably many good Feijoa smoothie sours and stuff like that down in Brazil these days, because Brazil is very good with their sour beers. So yeah, there's a lot of good stuff to be had down there for sure. But yeah, I think the way that this one goes together in that sense is really nice. Yeah, if it's the oily pear in the base, there's a bit of that kind of fresh green apple, you've got wee bits of apricot, and then yeah, a nice kind of strawberry and pineapple-y sort of note just sitting above it. The fruit, this beer really is very, very nice. And I think the Yardley stuff, I think, they need to be aged maybe about 2 years for you to start to get the really, really good flavours out of them, and I think this one's just in very, very good condition actually. So yeah, I've really, really enjoyed tasting this one for you. It's a wee bit unique with its kind of Kwai yeast character in the back of the palate, and then this Feijoa fruit at the front. So yeah, when it comes to these sour beers, Luke is just a little bit of a wizard, and only he would kind of think to use a Kwai yeast and a Feijoa fruit. So two things from kind of opposite ends of the world basically. So yeah, really good stuff once again. Not surprised, because I know how good these guys are when it comes to this particular kind of beer. But let's round off this review then with a wee quick look at the mouthfeel. So yeah, for me, this beer is pushing toward, in terms of a sour, it's a big kind of oily and slick mouthfeel, this one for sure. I'd say in terms of the sour beer, it's pushing toward the bottom end of full-bodied for me. The carbonation does have a slight prickle to it, but yeah, in terms of its IBUs, it's pretty low in that, probably about 5-10 IBUs at the most. The main body of the beer, or the malty base, whatever, you've got the dryness underneath from the wood, the little bit of sharpness from the vinous character, nice smooth malty character, and a wee bit of a drier sweetness on top. That's a given. We've covered the IBUs and the fruity side of this one. Like I say, it comes in with a little bit of that kind of citricy punch at the beginning, which you do expect, and then yeah, it mellows out to give you a lovely kind of soft, kind of strawberry, pineapple-y, peary kind of flavour into the aftertaste. So yeah, quite oily on its fruity side of things. But another beautiful, beautiful sour beer from Yardley Brothers, and I'm very happy with this. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this one. This was the Yardley 62 Peel Street, a 7% Kwai yeast mixed fermentation barrel aged Feijoa sour from Yardley Brothers Brewery in Kwai, Chung in the New Territories here in Hong Kong. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Yardley Brothers Brewery as well, and we will no doubt return to these guys again at some point in the very near future. But until then, slàinte, skål, cheers, and I'll catch you guys in the next review. Cheers just now.